Hey, welcome back to the Ping Pong Flix Show. My name is Chris Wong. This is episode 406 of the Ping Pong Flix Show. Let's go on to some DCEU updates, starting with the biggest news today, probably the most controversial news today, is in regards to Todd Phillips' Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix. This is coming from The Hollywood Reporter. Todd Phillips' dark take on the Batman villain will not play at the theater where a massacre took place during a 2012 screening of The Dark Knight Rises, as family members of those killed asked the studio to donate to gun victim charities. Family members of those killed in July 2012 mass shootings at a screening of The Dark Knight Rises in Aurora, Colorado, have signed a letter to Warner Brothers sharing concerns about the upcoming Joker film and asking the studio to donate to groups that aid victims of gun violence. We are calling on you to be part of the growing chorus of corporate leaders who understand that they have a social responsibility to keep us all safe, reads the letter. 7 years have passed since James Holmes, clad in full body armor and armed with multiple guns, including an assault rifle, terrorized the Aurora Cinemark Theater, murdering 12 people and injuring 70 during a screening of Christopher Nolan's Batman film. Now, as Warner Brothers gears up for the October 4th release of Todd Phillips' R-rated Joker, which is attracting attention for its gritty, realistic violence as well as for its artistry and the performance of star Joaquin Phoenix, some survivors and relatives of the victims are expressing fears about the film. I don't need to see a picture of Holmes. I just need to see a Joker promo, and I see a picture of the killer, says Sandy Phillips, whose 24-year-old daughter Jessica Gawi was among the slain. Sandy Phillips, no relation to the film's director, who with her husband Lonnie created the non-profit group Survivors Empowered, worked with Igor Volsky of the gun control advocacy group Guns Down America to craft a letter to Warner Brothers, which was signed by 5 family members of victims and sent Tuesday morning. Interview, Sandy Phillips says that Joker, which centers on the isolated and mentally ill anti-hero who becomes Batman's eventual arch nemesis, is like a slap in the face. She adds that she's concerned about audiences connecting to and even emulating the film's protagonist in a cultural climate where mass shootings have become commonplace. My worry is that one person who may be out there, and who knows if it is just one, who is on the edge, who is wanting to be a mass shooter, may be encouraged by this movie, and that terrifies me, she says. One theater that apparently will not be showing Joker, Century, Aurora, and XD, the remodeled venue where the shooting took place. Now, this has been a response by Warner Brothers, and this is what Warner Brothers' statement regarding Joker is, published on the Warner Brothers site. Gun violence in our society is a critical issue, and we extend our deepest sympathy to all victims and families impacted by these tragedies. Our company has a long history of donating to victims of violence, including Aurora, and in recent weeks, our parent company joined other business leaders to call on policymakers to enact bipartisan legislation to address this epidemic. At the same time, Warner Brothers believes that one of the functions of storytelling is to provoke difficult conversations around complex issues. Make no mistake, neither the fictional character Joker nor the film is an endorsement of real-world violence of any kind. It is not the intention of the film, the filmmakers, or the studio to hold this character up as a hero. And why would they? I mean, Joker is a villain. But also, who else responded was also Todd Phillips, the director of Joker. This was his response.
Do you understand at least why people might be a little scared going into it?
I mean, I think that, Aurora is obviously a horrible situation, but even that is not something you blame on the movie. And quite frankly, if you do your own research about Aurora, that gentleman wasn't even going in as Joker. That was misreported. His hair was dyed red. He was having obviously a mental breakdown, and there's something horrifying about it, but it wasn't related to it outside of the fact that it happened at a movie theater. But this is not the thing that the movie is trying to represent. This is not the movie still takes place in a fictional world. It can have real world implications, opinions, but it's a fictional character in a fictional world that's been around for 80 years. The one that bugs me more is a toxic white male thing when you go, oh, I just saw John Wick 3. He's a white male. He kills 300 people, and everybody's laughing and hooting and hollering. Why does this movie get held to different standards? It honestly doesn't make sense to me.
And coming off of that response from the director, which I wholeheartedly agree with him, and looking this, I also share the same sentiments. This is a tragedy. I feel terrible for the victims of this crime. I feel horrible about it, and everything else about it. But at the same time, just like how there's all these things and hate and trying to cancel gaming, cancel things like that, where they're really ignoring a lot of the issues in regards to mental illness, how easy it is to get a weapon. Those things should be looked at more than actually attacking the entertainment value, right? These, like they're saying, these are conversations, storytelling, talking about conversations about these issues in terms of mental illness and possibly gun violence. Now, the other thing that's interesting here is that these people have not seen Joker movie. They have not. They're basing it upon a trailer, right? They're basing it upon the promotions of Joker. They actually have not seen the movie. I don't know how much gun violence is in the movie. We can only go with what the critics have said, right? And you know critics. They're very hypocritical in their sentiments. They're attacking this movie with types of gun violence and stuff like that, when you literally, like Todd Phillips says, when they literally ignore, they even celebrate, they even laugh, they even have fun with movies like John Wick 3, which is an awesome movie. Yes, I mean, they're gunning down people with weapons. There's tons of movies like that. There's shows with like that. Punisher is like that. And the fact that they're even, remotely even connected to this Joker is also kind of ridiculous in itself. Because the murderer, Holmes here, who was convicted of 24 counts of first-degree murder and now serving life in prison without no possible parole, will be forever linked to the Batman film. And they only linked him because of a now debunked report at the time that he himself called Joker when he was being arrested. So that's not the case. That was a lie. That didn't actually happen. Daniel Oates, the Aurora's chief of police at the time, maintains there is no evidence Holmes ever said that he was the Joker. Also, look at this picture. Yes, he has orange hair, but look at his garb and just how he looks. Joker doesn't look like that. Joker has green hair. Joker, look at these pictures. I mean, they're just connecting it because of some reports at that time where they're calling that he looks like Joker. They're connecting because he shot. It could have been any movie. If it was a movie like, I don't know, John Wick or something, like, oh, he looks like John Wick. You know, it's just ridiculous. It's sad. It gets in the way of creators making art, right? And that's what art is. Art is something that creators show to express ideas, to express stories, to express something about a part of them or a part of the society, right? It's a way to tell a story and have conversation, discussions about life, discussions about topics that needs to be discussed. Yes, sometimes art is difficult to see. Sometimes art is difficult to discuss. But I think that's the beauty of art, because it dances around these difficult discussions and topics that we don't want to talk about, but we're willing to expose ourselves to it in order to have that discussion, in order to actually get involved with it, in order to actually maybe even heal us, right? We have to take these things head on in order to move on. And yes, I totally understand that these people would have PTSD involving a character Joker because the shooting happened in the Batman film. And at that time, that Joker name was being floated around, even though we know now that the media was wrong at that time and there was no evidence that Holmes actually said that. I understand PTSD, but then you have to open up the floodgates on PTSD for everything. I'm sure soldiers had PTSD watching war films. I'm sure that other people have PTSD watching other types of films. You know, it always happens, and it's something that we shouldn't actually blame the movie or try to boycott a movie or try to insult a movie or things like that, because that's you. That's your own intuition. That's your own thinking. If you don't want to watch a movie, then don't watch a movie. If you feel like something that will give you PTSD, if something that is very difficult to watch, then don't watch it. But please don't try to block anybody else or make a big deal about it at all. And that's just what I'm trying to say here. If they want to make a big deal, they should go to get Congress to help with financing and funding, to help with mental illness, to get guns off the shelves or make it harder for people to get weapons. I think that's where they should really focus their time and effort on, instead of trying to keep this movie off the theaters and in concern that a movie that they have never seen would affect society based upon a promotion and based upon a couple negative reviews for Joker. And that's just my opinion on the case. So anyway, let's move on to Birds of Prey, because apparently and we're gonna have to really dance around this because I have no idea who this person is, but some people are saying that he does have possible connections or something to people who have seen Birds of Prey that was shown as earliest as last night. He said this from Viewer Anon. I've received confirmation from multiple people who saw the current cut last night. Birds of Prey reshoots were generally action bits during the third act. No major overhauls. They also liked the movie. Now, that is, of course, doesn't go on the same narrative that others have said, where it's going to be like an overhaul. They're completely changing the story. So apparently from the cut that they've seen last night and compared to the cut from earlier, it's pretty much the same. Just the action bits are probably a little bit better, and I think that's the whole reason why the reshoots concentrated with Chad Stahelski doing those action scenes. Now, he has talked to many people since then, and he's got confirmation now that it's not a major overhaul, but there are changes, obviously, but it's normal tweak stuff, not a Suicide Squad style rejig like some people claimed. He can also say there is no dick pic element anymore. Originally, there were naked captures of Black Mask etched into the inside of the diamond. That's been removed altogether as far as I'm aware. Dick pics was always shorthand for the naked statue. So that was a little tidbit that Grace Randolph had put out, that the original story had that element in it, possibly a humorous twist in the story, and I felt that I can say that now because apparently it has been removed. So there is a little bit of an element of the story that has changed, and possibly a humorous twist to that has been changed. In fact, aside from reshoots of the actual action set pieces by Chad Stahelski, but also the fact that assume that there is no Suicide Squad rejig like how it kind of looks like what they're trying to do within the poster of the Birds of Prey official poster. So if for people who are wondering, I think if anybody has ever heard of seeing the movie from one cut to the other, from before the reshoots to after reshoots, apparently it's not that big of a deal. Just possibly better action pieces and removal of one scene or one element of the story. Whether that was a big element of the story, who knows, and maybe we'll never know. But it's still interesting to say the least. People are really tagging Grace Randolph right now, but we'll see what happens. I think she was right about that, but now we'll know that part was possibly removed. But of course, we won't know until we actually see the movie itself coming out February 7th. So there you have it. Finally tonight, Cinema Blend actually came out. Sean O'Connell decided to do an article on Snyder Cut fans. This is the title. Snyder Cut fans have something big planned for New York Comic Con. Long before Warner Bros. Released the theatrical version of Justice League in 2017, passionate Zack Snyder supporters have been beating the drum for the release of what we now call the Snyder Cut. This would be a restored version of DC's celebrated ensemble film that retains Snyder's vision for the superhero team-up and is believed to be drastically different from the cut that Joss Whedon helped the studio to deliver to theaters on November 17th, 2017. And so he summarizes here, and I'll link this article in the description below, how much GoFundMe, the page in the RT Snyder group, all the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention donations, and also culminating at New York Comic Con, that at RT Snyder Cut crew plans to hand out flyers, pamphlets, buttons, t-shirts, and more to continue to raise awareness for the fan demand for the release of the Snyder Cut of Justice League. In fact, if you're in Manhattan Saturday, October 5th, the group has told people to look for a custom designed digital billboard that will be put up on 42nd Street in the heart of Midtown that will flash roughly 30 times, playing for 15 seconds each hour. So I can't wait to see that. That is literally next week, the same weekend as Joker. So it'll be quite an interesting weekend indeed. So maybe when Joker finally releases in theaters, audience will finally get to see what is all the hoopla is all about. And maybe they'll come to realize that it's not such a big deal after all, and will come to just enjoy the film rather than take it apart. And at the same breath, we'll get to see some pretty interesting Snyder Cut promotion right there in New York Times Square, apparently, and I can't wait to see that also as well. All right, guys, well, thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.